Listen up, NFL fans. Are you ready? This is the podcast on all things NFL. The fantasy football players you should sit, ones you should start, guest speakers, game recaps, pre-game predictions, plus live call-ins from viewers, and so much more. Welcome to NFL Talk Live with your hosts, Raining Ravens 1 and Alex, a.k.a. PurpleSwordfish.
What's up? What's up, everyone? Welcome to the NFL Talk Live podcast featuring yours truly, Reigning Ravens 1, and my beloved co-host, Alex, a.k.a. PurpleSwordfish. Alex, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I am doing amazing, man. I'm so happy and thrilled to be part of this with you. It was probably how many months ago? 4 months ago, where I started putting together an idea to kind of run a podcast that's football related, not just Ravens, because that's what, people know me. I'm a big Ravens fan. They assume that just because I'm running a podcast, we're going to be talking about only Ravens. Not the case, though. As you can see, I got a Bucs fan. By the way, guys, Alex is the biggest Bucs fan I know, and I know he's not a bandwagon fan because, like I said, he's a Bucs fan. If he was a Seahawks fan or something like that, we'd be like, okay, let's question that a little bit. But you'll be hard-pressed to find any bandwagon Buccaneers fans. So a little bit about myself.
I might have been able to find them out there in like 2002, but
that's true. That's true. A little bit about myself. I am a streamer on here. I stream Madden and various video games. I stream about 2 to maybe 4 times a week on a good week. We are planning on running these podcasts every week, by the way. That is the current plan. Alex, you want to tell people a little bit about yourself too?
Yeah, I'm a fellow YouTube content creator. If you want to find my channel, easiest way to get to it is PurpleSwordfish.com. Do a lot of Madden on there. Basically just play anything that I'm into at the given time. In addition to that, this is kind of right in my wheelhouse because I'm a longtime NFL enthusiast, lifelong Bucs fan. I've been through the creamsicle era. I've been through the Warwick Dunn, Mike Alstott, Trent Dilfer years when they showed potential, and I was there when they won the Super Bowl in 2002, and then the preceding decline that's led us to where we are now, where I think they're just about to get back to those playoffs. So lifelong Bucs fan and a huge, huge NFL fan in general. That's
what's up, man. So for me, I didn't tell you guys this, but I've been a Ravens fan since 2002. So yes, I missed the first Super Bowl, but that's right when shortly after that period is when I started really getting into football and just sports in general. So Alex, we got our intros done. They know who I am. They know who you are. It's week 1. Football is finally upon us. When we're in the when we're in like March, April, we're like, man, when is football going to come? You're dying, you're grasping for any kind of football, even if it's preseason, right? And here it is.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Yeah,
it'll be here tomorrow.
Here.
It'll be here tomorrow. That's how amazing is that, first of all?
It is amazing. I'm really excited. I'm not a real big fan of preseason football because I think there's a lot of false positives that you get in it. A lot of times the stars go out, they play like one series, and then here comes the backup playing against some third-string guy just hoping to make the roster, and he looks like a superstar, and everybody's thinking, oh, this kid's the future. Yeah. Now we get down to reality, right? Like your 53-man roster versus my 53-man roster, and games actually mean something. So I could not be more excited for tomorrow night, and I think we have a heck of a game.
We do.
To kick it off this year in the NFL season.
Do you want to get into the picks? Do you want to get into the picks?
I mean, we can just let's talk about Chiefs Patriots.
All right, Chiefs Patriots. So Patriots, I believe, are a 9-point favorite in this one, right? Are they giving 9 to the Kansas City Chiefs?
Is what I'm seeing on the Vegas line. Obviously, it's going to differ a little bit from casino to casino, but New England is a 9-point favorite, which I think it's a little shocking to me because I think Kansas City's a pretty decent team.
Yeah. Kansas City, yeah, dude. Like Tyreek Hill. We're going to be talking about this later in the show, too, once we get into fantasy, but I didn't draft this guy for no reason. He's a legend. Guys like Travis Kelce, him, I think it's interesting to note, and I pulled this statistic up shortly before this stream, that Tyreek Hill has never played against New England. So he's my secret weapon X in this game because he's the unknown factor, right? You don't know what he's capable of against New England. And my key for a Kansas City Chiefs win, if in fact they do win, is that Alex Smith needs to stay upright. And he needs to be able to do more than just dump it off, 5-yard dump-offs to his running backs. He's got to be able to air it out. And I think they can do it. Kansas City defense, they can keep that offense healthy and rest it up because, they're good. That KC defensive front four is amongst one of the best in the league, in my opinion. What do you think about that?
Well, the Kansas City defense is very stout, and they've been a solid performer year after year, and they haven't really lost a ton of personnel. They still have a lot of the main cogs, if you will, of that defense still in place. I do think they have their work cut out for them. The New England Patriot offense year over year is always a very strong offense, and they do like to get into those shootouts. It's just what they do. And the other thing, too, about the Patriots is with Bill Belichick, they like to throw a lot of different looks at you and try to get you with a look that maybe you haven't seen from that team, even if you've played them a number of times over the past. So, overall, I think the defense has their work cut out for them. I agree with you on Alex Smith. I think not only does he need to stand upright, but he also needs to go down the field and not just be the Alex Smith that we're all used to. A lot of check down passes, a lot of tight end passes, and no passes going to the outside. Like it's astounding how efficient Alex Smith looks on paper until you look at that average yards per attempt.
That's right.
Or you look at
his completions is amazing. His completion percentage is amazing. But look at the kind of throws he's making. You know what I mean? We can put you and I out there and we can complete those passes.
Well, I don't know if I go that far, right? Because I think my performance would be more in line with something along Blake Bortles. But, overall, I think Alex Smith, his struggle has always been getting the outside involved. I think it was 2 seasons ago he went a full season without getting a wide receiver a touchdown. So I think that's a problem, and it will continue to be a problem until maybe Andy Reid can come up with a scheme for him that gets him to see the outside. I don't like their chances in a shootout against the Patriots.
I don't either.
I got to say, it looks, all the smart people in Vegas who I usually rely on for information, they have an over-under on of 49 in this game. So this 49 looks to be a pretty high-scoring affair. I don't know how the Patriots or how the Chiefs will stack up in that kind of a game.
Yeah, and here's another thing. We talked about Alex Smith, keeping him upright. We've seen what happens when you keep Tom Brady upright. Dude's 40 years old. Ever since he became a full-on starter, full-fledged starter in this league, that's been the problem amongst every team that he's ever played against. They can't knock him down. And when you do, flags all over the field. He's the poster boy. He's the golden child of the NFL. You cannot touch him. You can't even sneeze on him without a flag being thrown. Kansas City, believe it or not, has lost 6 games. The last 6 meetings in New England. And that includes playoff games. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and say New England's my pick here.
Yeah, I got New England as my pick. I don't think they'll win. I don't think they're going to cover the spread, but I do think they win this game. I think it'll be a little bit closer. If I had to guess, I'd say it'd be something like 24-27. It's going to be an exciting game, a fun one to watch.
Okay, so you got a pretty close game then.
Yeah, so it's going to be close.
All right, so we both got New England, right?
Absolutely.
All right, moving on to a team or a game that affects you, being that you're a Buccaneers fan. Obviously, with the insurgence of Hurricane Irma, obviously Miami has been placed in a state of emergency, and that game has, correct me if I'm wrong, it's been confirmed that it's moved to Week 11, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And that was the original bye week?
That was the original bye week for both teams, coincidentally.
Okay, so I guess Miami gets a week 1 bye, which you rarely see. And you know what? I would hate if my team had a week 1 bye. You want that sucker to be between week maybe 5 and 7, somewhere in there. I think it's gonna be rough, man. They've been placed in a very tough position with that.
So I feel like the NFL dropped the ball here for a couple of reasons. Number one is there's a reason nobody gets a bye in week 1, and it's because bye weeks are traditionally used to either be a turnaround week for a team that's struggling, or in addition to that, usually a week to get people healthy that have lingering injuries. NFL players certainly appreciate those bye weeks, and NFL players have lobbied for, if they play on a Thursday night, to try and get the full break from a Thursday night game
like
to a Sunday night game.
Yeah, you're talking about a 10-day break.
Absolutely. So it's like,
break.
Hey, can we get our Thursday game the week after a bye so that we get the additional rest? Rest is a big part of the NFL and preparation. And, what's really telling to me is the Dolphins came out publicly and players were saying that they wanted to actually play the game this Sunday, whether it was in Miami or at a neutral site, so that they could still protect that week 11 bye. I think as a Bucs fan, I think the Bucs are being put at a disadvantage. But in addition to that, as somebody who doesn't even really care for the Dolphins too much, I'm certainly not a Dolphins fan. This is a team that has to go to London, and then they also have a couple West Coast games too.
That is true.
They're at a real big disadvantage having to run 16 games in a row. I think the NFLPA needs to look at it. I think it needs to be something that maybe the NFL creates a contingency plan for. But overall, I feel like the ball was dropped, and it's not even me being sour and saying, hey, I'm irritated because I can't watch the Bucs play on Sunday. I get the safety concerns, but at the same time, if we're talking about safety, asking NFL players to play 16 Sundays in a row, that's a little difficult.
It is.
Now, I mean, if it's really about safety, you got to take that into consideration as well.
But on the same side of the coin, though, I'd like to say that the NFL, they get the bad rep, right, for being all about the money all the time. It's all money all the time. They earned a lot of people's respects by last week canceling the Houston Texans and Cowboys game, right? And then this week they're canceling the Bucs game, the Bucs and Dolphins game, correct?
Correct.
So with that being said, are they really about the money? And I know a lot of people are going to have different opinions about this, but it's pretty cool to see that they are offering people who bought tickets to these games they are offering people to get a refund, but at the same time, they're allowing them to, instead of getting a refund, putting that money towards like Red Cross or another helpful organization that's going to help with this relief for the people that need it down there. So honestly, it sucks to be a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan or a Miami Dolphins fan this week because you're getting your bye week 1. And the fact of the matter is you're playing a bunch of games back to back to back now. And I don't know if they're going to try to find a way to make it up to you guys in any way. Not to you, but to your team. I don't know. But I can say that this was a good move. They earned a lot of respect from a lot of people. Some people that don't even watch sports. It's got them talking about it. Oh, that's pretty cool that the league canceled that game. They must not be all about the money. But, that's just my opinion.
Well, I get why they canceled it, and I don't really even think this is a money move at all, because those tickets are bought and paid for,
That's true.
I think that it's really tough to ask a team to play 16 Sundays in a row, and that's really where my concern comes in. I think moving it to a neutral site would have been the best move, or maybe pushing it to tomorrow at a neutral site. I don't know, Mercedes-Benz Dome in Atlanta. It just comes to mind. It's
that would certainly be a sight, wouldn't it? Seeing the Dolphins and the Buccaneers play at the Falcons Stadium. It'll be like a real life game of mutt. That's a Madden reference for those of you guys who know and play Madden.
Totally. I don't know. So, it's rocking a hard place, man.
I know. I get it. I've had Ravens games canceled before. Trust me, I get it. Moving on to Jacksonville at Houston. We've got the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on possibly one of the most exciting defenses to watch in the league, in my opinion. DeAndre Hopkins recently signed a $49 million contract. Tom Savage, unfortunately, has not had the best preseason. But then again, it's Tom Savage. What else do you expect? That I mentioned the defensive side of things for Houston. J.J. Watt, Jadeveon Clowney, Brian Cushing, Jonathan Joseph, just to name a few. They are imposing defenders. They are going to get in the face of these Jacksonville Jaguars, especially since that left guard position, we talked about how important it is to keep a QB upright. That left guard position for the Jacksonville Jaguars has been a revolving door, man. They can't seem to find the correct fit for that. And J.J. Watt and company are going to expose that. I believe football all starts in the trenches. It starts with that defensive and offensive line interaction. Without them, there's no football. Without them, Tom Brady's not able to, have enough time to make the plays he wants. Without them, it's not much of a game. So they make the game. They're the unsung heroes. So I'm thinking that Houston's going to take this. What do you think?
So I have Jacksonville as my upset special of the week.
Do you?
So,
okay.
I actually have the Jaguars here. And so first off, these are two teams with what I would consider to be one of the worst quarterback situations in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
You know that old saying, hey, if you have two quarterbacks, you don't really have a quarterback at all. And that's kind of the case for both teams.
Yep.
All preseason, Blake Bortles has been trying to fight for his starting position against Chad Henne. Mm-hmm. They eventually did name him the starter. Same thing with the Texans. Tom Savage trying to hold on to his QB position over Deshaun Watson. Obviously, when you draft someone as high as they drafted Deshaun Watson, you don't plan to sit him forever. I think Deshaun Watson does have tremendous potential. I don't think he's NFL ready right now. When it comes to Tom Savage, I think, again, lots of potential. Do I think he'll ever be a blue chip stud QB? No. Will he be able to be a game manager and win a couple games here and there, a la maybe, I don't know, like a Rob Johnson for the Bills way back in the day? Yeah, absolutely. He has some good physical tools, so I do like that about Tom Savage. And he was certainly an upgrade over Brock Osweiler.
Definitely.
I mean, the guy who couldn't even stick on the Browns roster. But I think the Jaguars are hungry. They're young, and they're looking to make a splash this year under a new coach. So I have the Jaguars winning this one in a very close game.
Okay. I'm actually going to go the other way. And I know so far it seems like I'm being a homer because I've picked two home teams now. But then again, we're only 2 picks into it. I'm actually going with the Houston Texans. Home field advantage is a big thing, especially week 1. That crowd's going to be fired up, especially since they missed their last people who bought tickets in Dallas to watch the Cowboys take on the Texans. There's a bunch of Texans fans that try to go to that game. They're going to be fired up because football's finally back for them. I'm going to go with the Houston Texans. Moving on to the Eagles versus Redskins, an NFC East rivalry game. There's a lot of rivalry games I noticed in this first week of football. But anyway, yeah. Eagles and Redskins. You go first. What do you think?
So this was a tough one, man. I really had to think about this one for a while. I like Philly this year. I think that they can make some noise in the NFC East, specifically because in my opinion, they've found their quarterback of the future in Carson Wentz. Man, hindsight is 20/20. If we were to redraft last year's draft, I think Carson Wentz would have gone #1 overall instead of Jared Goff. So I really like the Eagles' chances. They've got a very solid defense. They've probably got one of the best D-lines in football by far. Their weakness is kind of really the linebacker core, but I think that will come along as the year progresses. Then you got Washington, where I feel like Washington's kind of on this treadmill of sorts where they're trying to decide, are we a rebuilding team or are we a win now team? Right. And the best microcosm of that is Kirk Cousins and the contract negotiations. they don't know if they want to lock this guy down long term because
they don't know what they're going to get from him.
So, I mean, I really struggle to see Washington, and this is why I'm going with the Eagles this week. I struggle to see Washington's offense do well with Kirk Cousins having all new receivers. And Terrell Pryor Sr. is a very talented young man, but, you know, there is something to be said about continuity, familiarity, whatever you want to call it in the NFL. And I think that initially the Redskins will struggle in the passing game, which is their strongest suit. So I have the Eagles winning this one very close, but still coming out with the win. Okay.
Interesting. I'm actually saying that I agree with you with a lot of the stuff you said about Carson Wentz. The Redskins, though, they seem to play their best brand of football when it does go up against one of their division foes. I don't know why it is, but they have a switch. There's an on, there's an off switch, and there's really on. That's what they're on. And I believe, I think there's going to be a good game. It's not going to be a blowout on any side. But it is worth noting that Washington and Kirk Cousins ultimately has lost his two best receivers in Deshaun Jackson and Pierre Garçon. Whereas the Eagles are looking like a team that's towards the latter part of their rebuilding process. They are the team that's geared towards, they're very quarterback geared, meaning that they are building this team around Carson Wentz and making him comfortable. They've got one of my favorite receivers of all time, Torrey Smith, and on the other side they got Alshon Jeffrey. Oh boy, that's going to be difficult for any defense to stop, and that's not going to change for the Redskins. I'm going to agree with you here. I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles as well.
Yeah, and one more thing on that game.
Go
Look
ahead.
for Jordan Reed to have a big game. He's the one piece of that passing game that's still there, and I think he's going to be the security blanket, if you will, for Kirk Cousins. So Jordan Reed will have a great game if you're into fantasy football.
Oh, yeah, he always does. He always does. And I think he was, in our draft, wasn't he picked up like third or fourth round? He got picked up really early.
That was still a little early, but that isn't such a bad pick. It's not the worst reach.
Exactly. It wasn't that big of a surprise. Let me just say that. It wasn't that big of a surprise. Moving on to the Cardinals versus Detroit Lions in Detroit. I'm thinking that this is going to be one of the few games that the Cardinals play this year where Carson Palmer will not be sacked. You can quote me on that if you want. It's up to you. I think due to the fact that the Lions have multiple defensive linemen on IR right now, and let's not forget their best pass rusher, Ezekiel Ansah, hasn't even practiced through all of training camp, right? And on top of that, he only had like 2 sacks in 13 games last year. Let that really settle in. I think there's going to be an offensive powerhouse for the Arizona Cardinals. I think David Johnson is easily going to have over 200, maybe 250 all-purpose yards. And if you're in a PPR league, which ours is, you're going to love him. I know in our draft, in our fantasy draft, first pick of the first round drafted, David Johnson, and I know who that is. That was you, wasn't it?
It's yours truly. And I think he's set for an outstanding year. Yeah.
And, I think it's not only just offensively for the Cardinals. I think it's going to be exciting to watch those pass rushers. Chandler Jones and Marcus Golden go at it. I'm going to go big time with the Arizona Cardinals. I'm going to say this is like a 24-10 game final. What do you think?
Ooh, man, I have to disagree with you just a little bit. I agree with the pick. I think Arizona is going to win this one. Arizona looks pretty healthy. I think the biggest miss for them right now is they're missing Deone Buchanan. I think he's a huge part of their defense, but they do have people that are ready to come in, step up. That defense is good year over year. I do think that the Lions are going to really give them some work on Sunday. Matt Stafford has done a tremendous job over the last 2 or 3 years, moving from what I would consider a very well above average QB to where now the conversation is he's one of the best in the league, definitely an elite quarterback. Even when they lost Calvin Johnson, that passing offense just did not miss a beat. And I think Matt Stafford is the biggest reason why. So I see this being a shootout. Vegas has the Cardinals as a 2-point favorite. I think they'll cover that. I could see them winning by a touchdown.
Well, you know, part of that comes from the 2-point favorite. Part of that also, it's actually 7 points if you think about it this way, because they're the away team, right? So if the roles were reversed, the Cardinals, if they were playing at home, they'd have a 7-point advantage.
Absolutely. I just don't see Ford Field as a really intimidating place to go in and play in. I just, it's not Seattle. It's not New England. It's not Pittsburgh. You know, those are the really tough play. I mean, hey, you know, and if you're a Lions fan out there and you want to throw something at me, I get it. But I'll even tell you, my favorite team coming into Tampa and playing there, it's not really that bad. It isn't. I mean, it's not a true home field advantage. I think that's a little bit overstated, but that's just like a personal belief of mine. Anyway, I think Arizona, they have, you know, David Johnson's healthy, Carson Palmer's healthy, Larry Fitzgerald, ageless wonder. I don't know how he keeps doing it year over year.
I don't know. Every year I'm like, every year I'm telling myself, okay, this is going to be the year he retires. This is going to be the year he retires, and he never does.
He's just going to walk away when he wants to. I don't think, you know, he's one of those weird guys where it's like Tom Brady, where it's like when he wants to retire, then he's going to retire. Until then, I think he's going to be very productive. Him moving to the slot a couple of years ago, I think extended his career significantly. And very big person to check their ego to do that, because I know a lot of wide receivers don't like moving to the slot if they played outside their whole career. Anyway, I have the Arizona Cardinals. I think this will be a really exciting game to watch, though. So this will be one that I watch very closely.
Okay, so we're both on the Cardinals, and we're both on the Eagles so far.
Yep.
Sounds good. Moving on now to Oakland at Tennessee. This is going to be interesting. Marcus Mariota, and from what multiple sources state, he's geared up to be the offensive MVP of the year because of all the weapons he's surrounded with, and let's be honest, the division he plays in. It's looking like it's going to be his year, right? He's got new receivers in Eric Decker and the newly drafted Corey Davis, but at the same time, they're going up against I don't want to say a very good defense, but they're going up against a pretty imposing Raiders defense, right? It helps that Raiders are not playing at home, because we know how the black hole can be sometimes. But at the same time, as much as I want to hype up Corey Davis and all them, Corey Davis hasn't taken an actual NFL snap yet. With that being said, Derek Carr and Marshawn Lynch are going to be the reasons why I will watch this game. Number one, I want to see Derek Carr resume the greatness that he kind of left off last year after the injury, right? But at the same time, Marshawn Lynch, this is a guy where we actually watched him on Instagram hang up his cleats and walk away and do all this kind of stuff on the offseason, and all of a sudden now he's part of this team, which, by the way, it's only a couple of miles from where he grew up. So he loves Oakland. That's his town. And I want to see if he can actually bring it. So I think he can. I think he's a bulldozer back. I'm going to go with the Raiders on this one. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Tennessee is going to have a good year. I think the potential is certainly there for them to continue to build upon what they've done over the last few years. I like Marcus Mariota, not a huge fan of him coming out of college, but he proved me wrong. And they've surrounded him with a tremendous amount of weapons, specifically in the running game. I think they might have the best 1-2 punch when it comes to running backs out there in DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry. So it kind of takes a lot of the pressure off of Mariota as a very talented but also very young quarterback in the NFL. However, when it comes to the Raiders, I think that they will also continue their ascension that they've been on in the NFL. And most of that has to do with, one, a tremendous defense. I mean, the Oakland Raiders defense has gotten better every single year. And then in addition to that, Derek Carr has, in my opinion, exceeded everybody's expectations that they had for him coming out of college, other than maybe Raiders fans. who went out and bought a
Absolutely.
jersey draft night. So I think the Oakland Raiders will take this one, even though they are not the favorite and they are facing a 2.5-point spread. But I think they win this one. I think it'll be close. It's going to be a really exciting game to watch. Two really young quarterbacks, two very good defenses. Obviously, the return of Marshawn Lynch. I don't think Marshawn Lynch is going to have a huge year. You
don't think so?
Write, yeah, you can write that down, put it on a plaque, whatever you want to do. I do not. Yeah, I don't think he's. I don't even think he'll be the leading rusher on the Raiders this year. I don't see it working out. Running backs don't take a year off at his age and then come back and do well. It's not going to work. But I don't think they're going to need him. I think the Raiders are good enough in their passing game and with the youth movement that they've had to still go on and have a really good year. And I think that they will have a very good chance of winning their division. But Agreed. Yeah, I got the Raiders.
Agreed. Actually, we were talking about this during my last Madden live stream, and someone just came out. I don't know who it was, but they said, "Do you think the possibility of the Raiders going 13-3 is a realistic one?" I said, "Absolutely. Why not?"
I mean, other than Derek Carr getting injured, I think they have a really good shot at it.
That's true. That's true. So moving on to, unfortunately, we have to talk about this game. I really don't want to talk about this because it is probably the worst Week 1 matchup I've ever seen in my life. And obviously I'm talking about the New York Jets going up against the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. This morning I was actually watching TV while eating breakfast, and they had Rex Ryan on, right? I don't know if you watched SportsCenter at all or if you heard what he said. Rex Ryan, when asked if he'd be watching this, because he's obviously had experience on both sides. He's coached for the Jets, right? And he's got relations going with the Buffalo Bills too. You know, he's got his hands in both pockets. So the thing is, he was asked, what do you think about this? What do you think about this game? And would you watch it? He responded with, and I'm not going to repeat this verbatim because I try to keep my language clean on here, but he says, "Heck no, I'm not watching that game. There's a lot better games on than that." And I can't say I disagree. This is a stink fest. It's a toilet bowl type game. But at the same time, I can see why it could get competitive between the two because they hate each other, right? These two teams hate each other. The Bills' defense last year ranked 6th overall in the entire league. Yes, the Jets made some notable offseason losses. You don't like to see losses. You like to see gains. But they lost Brandon Marshall. They lost Eric Decker. Quincy Enunwa, when was the last time we saw him play? And he's probably going to be out this week too. He's gone. I mean, what else is there on this Jets? This team is one of the worst in the league, I want to say right now. And I think Tyrod Taylor, they're going to toss him the keys to the Ferrari. I think Tyrod Taylor is going to be leading the charge both in the air and on the ground as he normally does. I don't think it's going to be a blowout because, again, they're two terrible teams. But I'm going to go with the Bills at this one, especially because they're at home. What do you think?
I'm in agreement that the Bills will take this one. However, I think it's going to get really ugly, and I think it's going to get really ugly really fast. Mm-hmm. The reason I say that is, can anybody tell me who the New York Jets starting wide receiver is?
That's true. That's what I was trying to get at. I know.
This is the island of misfit NFL football players. I mean, these are a bunch of castaways. They've got a couple from my favorite team, the Bucs, mm-hmm. guys that I've seen that are not starting level NFL football players, and Josh McCown at quarterback and Austin Seferian-Jenkins at tight end. Yep. Austin Seferian-Jenkins, I think, has all the tools to be a successful NFL football player and even a starter, but he doesn't have the work ethic and things like that, and that's why he just never worked out in Tampa. He was a huge disappointment. One of the worst draft picks they've made recently, aside from that terrible Roberto Aguayo pick. But anyway, yeah. Matt Forte might be the best. Matt Forte and Bilal Powell might be the best two guys on this offense. And they're really going to struggle because, teams are going to be able to game plan for them, and the passing game isn't going to scare anybody. So this is a team that you could legitimately put 8 in the box, 7 in the box on just about every play. And you throw a lot at Josh McCown, and he's going to make mistakes. And, you sit him, then who's next? Bryce Petty, Christian Hackenberg. If you're a Jets fan, I'm sorry. Your ownership is tanking. Like, this is blatant.
It is
tanking.
That's fact.
This is exactly what Cleveland did last year. It's blatant tanking. If they went 0-16, it wouldn't surprise me. It's a dumpster fire in New York, other than the Giants, I guess. But, like, seriously, it's one of the worst NFL teams probably in the modern NFL. They're an 8.5-point underdog. I think that's generous that Vegas gave that to them. I know the Bills have their problems. And, specifically with trading away Sammy Watkins, I don't think they're going to miss Watkins as much as people think. Watkins was playing hurt the majority of his time in Buffalo. I watched every single Bills game because he was on my fantasy roster every year. And I kept waiting for this guy to hit the potential, that we were promised. And they traded up for him. And, I mean, they put a lot of assets, time and money into Sammy Watkins, and it just never clicked. And a lot of games, he was just out there being a decoy.
That's right.
Tyrod Taylor, I think, is due for a good year. He's playing with motivation. He's got a big contract on the line. I have the Bills here. I think this is going to get ugly really quick. The whole second half is going to be running the football. It's going to be ugly.
Okay.
It's going to be ugly. I'm sorry, Jets fans.
But you're still taking the Bills.
Oh, absolutely.
Smart man. Smart man. All right. Next, we have the Atlanta Falcons going into Soldier Field, the Windy City, Chicago, taking on, obviously, the Chicago Bears. The Falcons being a team that are coming off of a sour Super Bowl loss, arguably one of the most meme-worthy and disgusting losses we've probably ever seen in a Super Bowl. One of the best comebacks, that's for sure. They're going to be looking to... nobody likes being the meme, right? They're going to try to end that. So they're going to come out here in week one and set the tone. We've talked about week one being the week that you set the tone for the rest of the year. That's going to be no different for these Atlanta Falcons, especially since the Chicago Bears named Mike Glennon as their starting quarterback. This is a guy that looks so flimsy. He might last like 3 quarters max the entire year. All right? And I just don't get why they wouldn't start Mitchell Trubisky. He's played very well all preseason. Mike Glennon only had 1 good preseason game. And that's facts. You can look up the stats on that. Mitchell Trubisky played phenomenal. And it's like, I don't get it. Do you not want a better quarterback? This is a team and a city that's been cursed with having bad quarterbacks year upon year upon year. Let's not forget names like Rex Grossman and Brian Griese. All right? It hasn't been the best ride for the Chicago Bears if you're a Bears fan. My thing is I'm confused. I don't know why they don't start Mitchell Trubisky. Is it because they're trying to protect their asset? They're trying to get him. I understand you have to earn your stripes, but at some point, and I don't think it's going to be long. I think it might even happen during this game against the Falcons when they say, you know what, Trubisky, put your helmet on, you're in. With that being said, I'm going to go with the Atlanta Falcons. What are you thinking?
We're talking about one game that I think is going to get ugly, and we immediately go to another one that I think is going to get ugly early. Atlanta is a very, very good football team. I obviously, watched quite a few of their games with them being a division rival of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We all saw them go to the Super Bowl, look really good in the Super Bowl until about the third quarter. I think they're not going to suffer from the curse that is when you lose a Super Bowl, you usually don't do very good the next year. I think they'll be the exception to that rule. So I have the Falcons going over in a landslide. What else do you need to know about the Falcons? I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. They got Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Mohamed Sanu stepped up, became a very good target for him. That surprised me. But, the defense is still pretty good. Now, when it comes to Chicago, we just talked about a team that's blatantly tanking. This is another team that's blatantly tanking.
You really think that the Bears are blatantly tanking, though?
Yes.
Do you really?
Absolutely.
I mean, outside of them not starting Mitchell.
Well,
And
I
how
think
so?
I think Mitchell Trubisky not starting is more a conversation about, do we want to ruin this young quarterback, a la David Carr with the Houston Texans in the early
Right.
2000s?
Right.
They paid Glennon, and I've seen Glennon in Tampa Bay, and I thought Glennon was a very, very respectable backup,
Mm-hmm.
and the league opinion supports that. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers actually made an offer to Mike Glennon to make him the highest paid backup quarterback in the league before he eventually signed with the Bears. And I do wish him the best of luck with the Chicago Bears, because he seems like a very genuine and nice guy, and he has a lot of good
Don't
tools.
get me wrong. He does. He does.
He's got a great arm. He's got a great arm on him, but he doesn't have the accuracy. He's got a really long windup. He doesn't make the right reads all the time. The mental aspect is something that I think isn't as strong as it could be with Mike Glennon. I think he's going to be on the shortest of leashes.
Absolutely.
I think this is a case where the backup quarterback is the most popular guy in town in Mitchell Trubisky. But if I'm the Chicago Bears and I'm tanking anyway, and I'm sorry if you're a Bears fan, but they're tanking, I would sit Trubisky. I would let him learn for a year from someone like Mike Glennon, who's done it before. It's not so different than what Cincinnati did when they drafted Carson Palmer. They said under no circumstances is Carson Palmer putting on a football helmet and going in and playing the first year. And he played, I don't even think he played a single snap. He watched John Kitna, NFL journeyman John Kitna, lead this an 8-8 record. But when he came in that next year, he was ready. I think they should sit Trubisky, let him learn for a year, because he came out as a junior here, and then hand him the car keys next season. But you know how that goes. The media gets involved. The owners get involved. You just drafted this guy. He's the new shiny toy. So he'll probably get put in and just get completely decimated, because there's nothing around him. It's a very rough roster. So I got the Atlanta Falcons, and I have them winning pretty big by at least one touchdown.
At least one touchdown? Okay.
Yeah.
So we're both on the Falcons then. A lot of our picks lately have been very similar. Let's see if this continues as we go down the list. Speaking of the list, we are talking about a game that intrigues me the most this week, and that is my beloved Baltimore Ravens going up against the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati. Boy, oh boy. Did you know, interesting stat here, 42 regular season matchups since 1996 when the Ravens first started. 42 matchups. Can you guess how many of those games we've won?
I would say 15.
Close, but it's actually split.
21-21.
We've won 21. They've won 21. This is the tiebreaker game. It's so hard, especially when you listen to the different pundits, especially draft day. You remember talking about Joe Mixon and stuff. They called him Le'Veon Bell 2.0 or something weird like that, mini Le'Veon or whatever, because Joe Mixon is 6'1", 228 pounds. Le'Veon Bell is 6'1", 225 pounds. I've seen how the Ravens react when they're playing against Le'Veon Bell, and I'm hoping we don't have to face that again, because that would mean we play this Le'Veon Bell character 4 times a year. I thought it was enough that we played him twice a year, but yeah, this is going to be Joe Mixon is going to be a guy to watch, as well as the other playmakers. There's so many playmakers on this Cincinnati offense. You got Jeremy Hill, Giovanni Bernard, AJ Green, John Ross, Tyler Eifert, which is one of Andy Dalton's favorite targets, and you can't blame him. This lineup that they have for the Cincinnati Bengals is probably going to go down as the best team that he's ever played on. With that being said, speaking of the best team that you've ever played on, Tony Jefferson, he's joining the Ravens this year. He was offered a 4-year, $34 million contract, and he took it. Now, he hinted to the fact that he was offered more money elsewhere, but he was also quoted saying he would take less money because at this point of his career, he just wants to chase the Super Bowl ring. He said he would take less money to chase a ring, and the Ravens were his best opportunity. And honestly, like, this is me being completely unbiased. And you're going to find that out in a second, how unbiased I am. But Ravens fan aside, I think that this safety core, Eric Weddle and Tony Jefferson, is going to be the best in the AFC. I was going to say NFL completely, but you can't forget about those boys playing in Seattle. I mean, they're a different breed of animal. I'm talking about the AFC. We're going to be the best safety duo in the AFC. With that being said, my pick to win this game is Cincinnati. There you have it. That's my pick. What about you?
I think this is a pivotal year for both of these teams. I think both the Ravens and Bengals are in a situation where, if it doesn't work out with this core group on both rosters, they start thinking about moving on and maybe trying to tear it down and rebuild something else. It wouldn't be that different from what happened in Chicago. I mean, the Chicago Bears were a playoff team, and they were making the playoffs and getting eliminated in the first round, and eventually they decided, well, we can keep doing that, keep running on that treadmill of mediocrity, or we can take it down and try to build something elite again. I know that's a difficult thing for a fan to hear, that we're going to tear it down. It happened to the Bucs not too recently. But, I mean, for me, I look at both teams and I go, this is the year where something's got to give, and especially with the Cincinnati Bengals situation with Andy Dalton. I don't care what anybody says. I don't think they're completely sold on him as the quarterback long term. His contract would indicate that, considering if they were to let him go after this year, the dead money is something in the realm of $2.5 million, which is chump change compared to some of these other contracts. And Andy Dalton took a deal that, quite honestly, just wasn't really very guaranteed at all. It's honestly very close to a year-to-year deal when you look at the structure of it. So I think with the Bengals this year, they have something to prove. They went out, they got Joe Mixon. I don't agree with him being the next Le'Veon Bell. There's only one Le'Veon Bell, people. Like, that's it. Le'Veon Bell is a special generational talent. And I'm not even a Steelers fan, but I've never seen a running back who was that entertaining to watch simply because of his vision of the field. I can't recall a running back.
What is that weird thing he does when he's like, it's almost like he's hiding behind his offensive line, and he's looking for that right gap, and he just pops right through there. It's quite amazing to watch. I can't tell you another running back I've seen do that. He's very patient.
It's like every handoff's a halfback draw, and he's sitting there just kind of picking his spots, and he's the best at it, and nobody else is doing that in the NFL now. And I can't recall a running back who did that before. Like, Le'Veon Bell is not the fastest dude, and he's not the one guy who's going to run everybody over, but because of his vision, he's truly an elite halfback, and he's got to be in the conversation for best running back in the NFL. Joe Mixon, I think, has a lot of talent. I do have concerns about his off-the-field problems. I think that goes without saying. I think that with Marvin Lewis as his head coach and that organization, who has shown this weird propensity for bringing people in with off-field issues and turning them around, I think he's in the right environment. Ravens, same thing. This is the year where something's got to happen. Otherwise, they're going to kind of deconstruct that roster and rebuild, and be a part of that, unfortunately. However, when it comes down to it, the Bengals have all the playmakers on offense. A.J. Green, 3 really talented running backs in Jeremy Hill, Giovanni Bernard, and Joe Mixon. I think they're going to have a better year. My take is Bengals will probably go 10-6. Ravens probably go 9-7. Okay. That would be my initial thought on it. But I got the Bengals in this one, and I have them covering the 3-point spread.
Okay. Moving on to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I know we're approaching, wow, that's been a quick 49 minutes, but we are approaching our 1 hour thing. Maybe we can just blaze through the rest of these. Not too many more to go. I think there's 5 or 6 more games for us to cover. But this is the Steelers versus Browns game in Cleveland. Deshaun Kaiser, it's the musical chairs at the quarterback position. Big surprise. Deshaun Kaiser versus Steelers defense, who, oh, by the way, not so, pretty recently acquired Joe Hayden, which honestly I'm very triggered and about this much jealous, a lot jealous, for the fact that they have acquired Joe Hayden. Because why? That's a guy I wanted on my team. Statistically, and this might be a shock to some people, Cleveland's offensive line is ranked second best in the NFL, with first being the Philadelphia Eagles. With that also being said, the last time the Browns won against the Steelers was in 2014. And I think they're not going to win this one. I'm going to go with Big Ben and AB to lead the charge. And the guy we're just talking about, Le'Veon Bell. That's a scary bunch. I know they're scary. Why? Because we play them twice a year. I know what they're capable of. Yes, the Browns are decent and stuff, but what's this I hear about their new defensive end, Myles Garrett? He might actually be out because of an ankle injury. So, with that being said, I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah, they're the away team, but they're going to go into Cleveland, something that they've done all the time. They're used to it. They're going to go into Cleveland and get this win. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think much needs to be said about this one. Steelers look like the Steelers, as they have for the last couple of years. Very good offense, mediocre defense, but the offense carries them through games. I don't think anything's going to change there, barring an injury. Cleveland Browns, I love their draft. They had a really good draft. They got a lot of really good pieces, and they took some guys that fell a little bit. But, it's important to note that this will be their first regular season NFL game. I think it's another one that'll probably get ugly pretty quick and get out of hand. But the future's bright in Cleveland, guys. They've got some good pieces. It's going to take them a while. But I got the Steelers.
Right. Okay. Indianapolis Colts taking on the LA Rams. I'm still not used to saying that, by the way. I know it's been a whole year. And
still weird.
It's still weird to me. Yes, thank you very much. So they're going. The Colts are going into LA to take on the Rams. This one, there's way too many questions on the Indianapolis side of things for me to pick them. With Andrew Luck being out, Scott Tolzien listed as their starting quarterback going into this game. We've seen this guy play. I could hire a mechanic, a vehicle mechanic, and he could play better than Scott Tolzien. On the other side, Jared Goff looked absolutely brilliant in preseason. You look at his stats. For the little bit that he has played in those games, he's looked great. And honestly, last year was kind of like a one-off in my opinion. That offense was very lackluster, to say the least. That LA Rams offense. Todd Gurley couldn't get anything going. Offensive line wouldn't block. And Jared Goff was off, And from my understanding, Aaron Donald is probably not going to play this one. So they're going to be missing him because he's still holding out. But with that being said, like I said, there's way too many questions on that Colts team right now for me to pick them. I'm going to go with the LA Rams.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. Double R. Not a whole lot that needs to be said about this one. The Rams, very promising looking team. Jared Goff, I still think the jury's out on him. Adding Sammy Watkins will certainly help. And if they could get something from Tavon Austin, who's on one of the worst contracts in the NFL out there, that would be wonderful. As far as the Colts, I would pick them in this game if Andrew Luck was playing. But, It's important to note that Scott Tolzien had a QBR last year of 28. And when you compare that to the rest of the NFL, like the next closest guy that was a starter last year was Casey Keenum at 43.4. So basically, Scott Tolzien is a whole 28 points on the QBR scale, better than a dead body out there at quarterback. And I don't see him having a great game against what I feel is a pretty good defense, even though they don't have Aaron Donald. But Aaron Donald, you keep holding out, bro. Go get your money, dog. That's right. I got the Rams. You
got the Rams. Okay. Again, our picks are very, very similar. Moving on now. The Carolina Panthers taking on the 49ers in San Fran. We talked about questions with the Colts team, right? There's good questions and bad questions. The 49ers, they're on the good side of things because they have a lot of question marks on their team too. They have a total of 14 new rookies on this 53-man roster. We don't know. We talked earlier in this podcast of how we don't know how rookies do, right? They could be terrible, they could be great. 14 on a 53-man roster, that's a lot. Could be a good thing. I don't know. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. But the fact that their starting lineup is Brian Hoyer. Okay, let's let that sink in. Brian Hoyer is an NFL quarterback. All right. We got, and then he's going to be thrown out to Pierre Garçon and Marquise Goodwin. So maybe they can help him keep his head above water, but there's just way too much talent for me not to notice on the Carolina Panthers side with Cam Newton, rookie running back Christian McCaffrey, which has looked amazing so far. He's a beast in Madden, by the way. If you're playing Madden, you need to try playing with him in one game at least. He's amazing. In real life, in preseason, looks good too. And also rookie wide receiver Curtis Samuel, which I'd like to hear your opinion on because I noticed, let me see if I can pull this up a second. I noticed, here's our draft, by the way, our fantasy football league. And here is where we keep track of all the transactions and stuff. And I see this, the Albatross, that's Alex, a.k.a. Purple Swordfish. He dropped Curtis Samuel and picked up Sam Bradford. Now, you don't have to explain why you picked up Sam Bradford, but I kind of feel like you need to explain why you dropped Curtis Samuel.
Lowest guy I drafted won't be an immediate impact right now, and had too many Bucs players on the roster, and their game got canceled. So it was either run without a quarterback or drop a position player and pick up another quarterback or drop Jameis Winston, which I refuse to do because I think he's due for a good year. Okay. So it was hard. What I'll tell you is I went with Curtis Samuel because I felt like he probably had the lowest likelihood of being picked up on the waiver wire, but now that you've made it such a big deal, I'm sure somebody will pick him up. But that's fine. That's fantasy football. As for this game,
it's a dog league.
Yeah, I think Curtis Samuel won't make an immediate impact because he's been struggling with some injuries through camp in the preseason, but I do think long-term he'll be a big part of that offense. In addition, Christian McCaffrey, it's borderline unfair that the Panthers got him because him and Cam Newton, I can only imagine what
they're going to kill it. They're going to kill it. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like he just got the biggest Swiss Army knife out of college. Now, I mean, obviously we have yet to see what Christian McCaffrey can do, but I certainly think he'll be the closest comparison I can make is I think he could be like a Darren Sproles, a guy who, one, can catch out of the backfield, can run it if you need him to run it, but in addition to that, no problem lining up in the slot and being a receiver. So, like I said, just a Swiss Army knife that you can do all kinds of stuff, run gadget plays for, etc. I think this offense is going to run wild over the 49ers, and the 49ers are not going to be able to keep up. Brian Hoyer is a serviceable NFL starter, but serviceable doesn't get the job done here, so I have the Panthers.
Okay, you got the Panthers. I also have the Panthers. Moving on to Seattle Seahawks taking on the Green Bay Packers in Wisconsin, in Green Bay, Wisconsin. This, for whatever reason, there's a lot of people who think, when there's a full moon, that crazy stuff happens. Well, in my opinion, when these two teams are matched up together, the Seahawks and the Packers, something crazy happens. Let's not forget about the catch. Was it a catch or was it an interception? Okay, we still don't know. It's been ages since then. We still don't know what play that was, right? And then Aaron Rodgers lobbing it down to, I think it was it Janis? I think it was Janis who caught a deep bomb over him with like 0 seconds left on the clock. Anyway, crazy stuff happens when these two teams play each other. Green Bay's defense was disruptive, absolutely disruptive last year against Seattle. I want to see if maybe they can do it again. I think they can. The Packers lost Eddie Lacy over the offseason. He coincidentally plays now for the Seattle Seahawks. Ty Montgomery, a guy I picked up on my lineup. I want to see if he can. I know he's not going to be the bruising back that Eddie Lacy was, but we've seen him play. He's quick. He's quick on those swing routes. He's quick on. He's good carrying the ball. He's good catching the ball. I think he could do it all. The thing is, though, Seattle, they got this dude named Russell Wilson, and I know the common saying amongst tight ends is that tight ends are really the safety blanket of the quarterback, and that's no more truer in Seattle, where Russell Wilson, he loves throwing to his tight ends. He's got Jimmy Graham and Luke Wilson out there, and I think they're going to tear up that Packers defense, which Packers defense doesn't have very many guys out there anymore. They're a skeleton crew. And also, let's not forget about special teams ace. We always talk about offense, defense. We rarely talk about special teams. Let's not forget about special teams ace Tyler Lockett. I think he's good for a touchdown. I know he's always looking to get a touchdown anytime the ball touches his hands. I'm thinking, and I know this is a bold prediction, I think he might get a kickoff return for a touchdown in this game. But will the Seahawks win this? Right now, I believe last time I checked, the Packers are a 4-point favorite, according to Vegas numbers. And I think that's due primarily because of the fact that they're playing at home. But I am going to go with the Seattle Seahawks. Going into Green Bay week 1 in front of that crowd on this is a Sunday 3:25 game on Fox. I got the Seattle Seahawks winning this. What about you?
I have to disagree with you, my friend. I have the Packers on this one. I think both teams are going to have good years. No doubt about that. I still have concerns about the Seahawks offensive line. Mm-hmm. I think Russell Wilson, tremendous quarterback, tremendous person in general, but he's going to have a hard time throwing behind that offensive line. He's going to be running for his life in some cases. Not to say that the Green Bay has the strongest defense out there, because they certainly don't. But in a shootout environment, which I think this will devolve into, I have the Packers winning this one. It's always entertaining to watch these two teams play. Even though they are not, I mean, it's like their fate is always intertwined just because
it is
Holmgren worked for both teams.
Yep.
Even though he's not there still, it's weird. Like those two teams, like players always seem to go from Seattle to Green Bay and Green Bay to Seattle and vice versa. But I got the Packers in this one, but it's going to be a really fun one to watch, like it always is.
All right, so you and I are going different directions with the Seahawks versus Packers game. That's okay.
Oh yeah.
Sunday night game, the last game of Sunday. We got the Giants taking on the Cowboys at AT&T down in Dallas, Texas. Or I think that's Arlington. It's not even Dallas. It's Arlington, Texas, right?
Yep.
Okay, so my keys to this game, obviously the news surrounding Ezekiel Elliott is huge. Let me show you guys why it's so huge for me. Is because, here, let me go to my team real quick. Look who I drafted. I drafted Ezekiel Elliott. I believe I had, I think I may have had the 7th, or no, it was like the 13th overall pick in the first round. I went with Ezekiel Elliott. And then talk about his suspension being upheld, but the silver lining there is that they're actually going to let him play week 1. That's going to be huge because Dak Prescott, we don't know. We haven't seen him take on the charge by himself. It's always been the Dak and Ezekiel duo taking it on, right? So we don't know how this would have turned out if Dak was playing by himself. So good to have Ezekiel out there, not only for the Cowboys, but also for me. Another thing to note, the Giants are undefeated at AT&T Stadium. Every time they've gone to that stadium and taken on the Cowboys, they've won. The Giants, good old Big Blue, they picked up Brandon Marshall over the offseason. One of the matchups that I'm going to find really entertaining to watch in the Sunday night bout is the face-off between Dez Bryant, Secret Weapon X, and Janoris Jenkins. I think that's going to be one of the best matchups of Week 1, offense and defense, to watch. With that being said, I think New York Giants are going to keep their undefeated streak at AT&T. I'm going to go with the Giants, playing away, going into Dallas, getting this win. What do you think?
Well, I like both teams. I think both teams are going to have a good year. I think the Giants probably a bit less than the Cowboys. Not a Cowboys fan. The fan base actually sort of annoys me sometimes, but
I can't. I agree. I agree totally, man. They're always pressed to rub the fact that they got rings in your face. Oh, when was the last time you got a ring? Right? That's all. They never mind the fact that their team has been in existence for like 200 years, right? But they're always pressed to bring up the fact of rings. But go ahead. I don't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. I mean, that's a good part of it. But this is a team that hasn't really won playoff games in forever either. So the Cowboys are still trying to figure it out, trying to get over that hump and win a playoff game for, I think, the first time in like 15 years. Not 15 years. What am I saying?
No,
it's been a while.
It's been a while. It hasn't been 15 years, though.
Yeah, it's been quite some time since they've gotten deep into the playoffs, and I think this is a good chance for them this year to do that. I think New York's still going to be a playoff team. I think they're probably the two teams that are going to come out of the NFC East, go to the playoffs. But I have the Cowboys in this one because they do have Ezekiel Elliott. I think that is really the X factor, even though that's not his nickname. Because if you put it all on Dak Prescott's shoulders, I'm not sure how that's going to look because we haven't seen that yet.
We haven't seen it.
And it'll be interesting to see how that works in week 2. But I see this one kind of being like last year's season opener where the Giants and Cowboys played, where the Cowboys did manage to, I believe they did eke out a victory. I could be wrong on that one, but I still see them winning a close game here.
Okay. So are you going with the Giants?
No, Cowboys. Cowboys. They're going to get a close win.
Okay. Alrighty. You're going to go with the Cowboys.
I can't let my personal bias.
You almost made me want to switch my pick for a second, but I'm going to go with the Giants. Now, final 2 games. We are blessed with 2 Monday Night Football games this week, and they're on at different times, so they're not concurrent. They're not simultaneous. They're not simultaneously being played. It'll be the Saints versus Vikings. Then it'll jump on over to the Chargers taking on the Broncos. Saints and Vikings. Interesting game. I can see why they set this up, right? It's the homecoming, especially because they're playing in Minnesota. It's the homecoming of Adrian Peterson. It couldn't make it any more obvious. Number 28 is finally coming home. He's been quoted saying that this week 1 game, not only is the start of the season, but it's also the end of the season. He's saying he is ticked off. I'm not going to use the exact words he used. He said he's ticked off, and this game right here is more important than the entire season to him, and I can see why. Talking about the Saints, though, for a bit. Drew Brees' favorite target, Willie Snead, was suspended 4 games for a DUI, and I believe he got it reduced down to 3, if I'm not mistaken. Also, one of his fastest and his favorite targets, Brandon Cooks, he's gone. He is now a New England Patriot. Chalk it up to Bill Belichick and company for making offseason look absolutely beastly for their teams. The thing that scares me most here, though, especially because it's at home, week 1, the Vikings, especially that new stadium, it funnels sound so well. The thing that scares me here is the triple-headed monster that the Vikings are working with. Of course, I'm talking about Dalvin Cook, Latavius Murray, new acquisition from the Oakland Raiders, and Jerick McKinnon. It's funny enough, I think that triple-headed monster is actually a little bit more scary than the triple-headed monster we saw back in New York. I want to say 2008. Was it 2008, 2009? I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings playing at home. And Sam Bradford is going to have a good game because that Saints defense is trash. Garbage. So I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings winning at home on Monday Night Football. What do you think?
Gotta disagree with you, Double R.
Okay.
I don't see it. I think the Vikings are a very good team. I think they could use a better quarterback. But aside from that, I think that they're good at running the football. Well, they're going to be good at running the football, I think. They weren't very successful doing it last year. Surprisingly, they weren't. But this year, I think they'll be more successful running the football. And then if they can get anything out of Sam Bradford above, like they're going to have a good year because the defense can carry them through games. Not so different than the Houston Texans. But and I could be wrong on this pick, but the reason I'm picking the Saints is the Saints are the masters at making people play at their pace. And they do this to the Bucs every year. They do it to other teams like Atlanta in their division. They set the pace, and it becomes a shootout, and Drew Brees is just such a heavy favorite in any kind of shootout situation. That being said, the Saints have 7-9 written all over them because that defense has not gotten any better. Yeah, I think they're 7-9. I think they're a 7-9 team. And the reason why is their defense, it's just not a very good one. I know they put a lot of draft picks into it. I think it will get better, but this year, just speaking for 2017, I don't see that Saints defense being much better than it already was last year. And then in addition to that, I think the subtraction of Brandon Cooks will be a huge loss for them. Now, you look at the stats and you go, well, Brandon Cooks wasn't guy hauling in 120 receptions a year, but he opened up that whole offense. He did. When he wasn't catching balls, he was a tremendous decoy.
Because the fact of the matter is, thank you. Yeah, the decoy. The fact of the matter is, you got to keep that defense honest. They have to account for that guy being out there. That's too much speed to man up one-on-one. I agree 100% with what you said.
And one of his biggest complaints, and part of the reason why I think the Saints moved him, was he felt like he wasn't being utilized as a pass catcher as much as he was being utilized as a decoy. But I got news for him. When you got speed like that, people are always going to double up on you. And more often than not, you're going to have to be that decoy. It's just every elite level receiver deals with that in their career at one point or another. So overall, I think that loss will hurt them. The Willie Snead suspension, that really hurts. I know he's not like the most, high profile player out there, but that guy makes a lot of things happen in that passing game. And I think the Saints are going to have Michael Thomas out there with Ted Ginn Jr., and it's going to be difficult moving the football. But I think the Saints are going to come out, set the pace, and it's going to be the Saints in a shootout. I have them winning it.
So you're taking the Saints in a shootout?
Yeah, man. Yeah, okay. we keep disagreeing here towards the end.
Yeah, towards the end, things are getting kind of different here now. Final game. This is kind of a late game, by the way. Monday, 9:20 p.m. L.A. Chargers, which is, again, something that's going to be weird for me to say. I'm still tempted to say San Diego. The L.A. Chargers are taking on the Denver Broncos in Denver, Monday Night Football, Game 2 of the evening. Let's talk about Trevor Siemian. Are we going to get the good Trevor Siemian or the bad Trevor Siemian? If we can get the guy who played week 1 through 4 last year and took the team and made it a 4-0 team, doing what he does best is utilizing the running game and minimizing turnover, I think the Denver Broncos are going to win. However, due to the fact that the Chargers have Joey Bosa now, he's going to be picking up where he left off, and you know what he's capable of. He's like a J.J. Watt almost out there playing at defensive end position, as well as a running game that's going to be so vital in controlling the tempo of this game. And, of course, I'm talking about Melvin Gordon. Are we going to get the Melvin Gordon of last year? Which he was a beast last year. You'd be lucky to get him on your team. Or are we going to get the Melvin Gordon of his rookie season? The guy who didn't have a touchdown until I think week 10, week 11. He was terrible his rookie year. I'm thinking Melvin Gordon's going to continue off where he left off. And he's going to be playing a tremendous brand of football come this Monday night. But even with that being said, though, I'm going to have to go and take the Denver Broncos. I think Trevor Siemian is going to play a management type game. He's going to be managing this team. Give him a 10-point lead. He's going to manage his way into a win. He's going to utilize that running game that they have. I'm going with the Denver Broncos. What are you thinking?
I think we disagree yet again, my friend.
Okay.
So I have both teams. I think they're both good teams. I think the Broncos are going to have another solid year. I don't think they're going to jump off the charts because they don't really have a QB. Has there been a more when two people get divorced and it doesn't work out for either person after they get divorced? That's how the Brock Osweiler Denver Broncos divorce went. It didn't work out for Brock. It hasn't worked out for Denver. Now they're trying to get back together. We don't know if it'll work. Maybe the same problems will be there when they, get out of the honeymoon phase. Who knows? But, Trevor Siemian, I'm just not sold on him yet. I hope he proves me wrong. I know he's put in the work and the effort to do it, but I think the Broncos have 8-8 written all over them. Okay. And then when it comes to the Chargers, I think this is going to be a better year for them this year than it was last year. Phillip Rivers has his favorite target in Keenan Allen back and healthy, and I think that's going to be a huge add to that offense. Melvin Gordon, he's going to have a hard time running the football because that San Diego offensive line is kind of dicey, but I still think coming out of the backfield catching passes, he's going to be very successful. Defense with the Chargers, it's not going to blow anybody away, but it'll do well enough to give the offense a chance to win the
Purple
game.
Swordfish.
Yeah.
Your mic, we're going to get to your pick in just a second, but your mic is kind of off. I'm going to go ahead and move you back. Hang tight, okay? All right. I think we're good.
Am I back?
You're back. Your mic is really breaking up, though. That's fine, though. We've reached towards the end of our show. What were you going to say your pick is? You're going to go with LA Chargers, right? Okay, that's your pick. We're going to use this portion of the show now, this portion of the podcast. If you are on Discord and you'd like to come in and talk about anything, you can ask either one of us a question or, give your opinion. We're always open to discussion. So real quick, let's get someone in here. Let's see. It looks like we have Josh. Josh Farrell's waiting online. What's up, Josh?
Yo, what's up?
How's it going, man?
I'm doing good. How have you been, guys?
Good. What do you have to say?
I'm just...
You're what?
I don't know. I just forgot.
It's okay. Take a second to reel yourself in. What was it? What was it you were going to say, though? Did you have a general comment about the stream, or a general comment about the way the podcast is? Anything?
I think it's great so far.
You like it? Okay. We appreciate it. Thank you for your support, my man.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Let's see. Next up, we have a familiar face in Glocks Gaming. What's going on? A familiar in Glock. Oh, there's a little bit of reverb on your end. What's going on, man?
What's up? Nice podcast.
Appreciate it. Anything you'd like to say?
Yeah. So, Swordfish, you picking the Cowboys because they have Zeke now, right?
Just for this game.
Right. But they had Zeke for both games last year. How did that work out for them?
I understand. I'm taking the Cowboys. I'm sticking with my pick, man.
All right. I respect that. But you don't know the Giants have a good, a top 5 defense, right? Especially against the run, like a top rushing defense and a top passing defense.
Yeah.
And they held the Cowboys, who had Dak and Zeke last year, to 3 points and 7 points.
I got you, man, but I know it's a bold pick, and I know that there's plenty of Giants fans out there ready to throw something at me, but I think the Cowboys...
I'm throwing stuff at you.
Yeah, man, I really think the Cowboys are going to come through here. I think they're going to have a good game, and I see them winning this one in a close one.
Yeah, it's gonna definitely be a close one. They're always close. They're always close.
All right, bro.
Also,
thank you
Doubler,
yes, sir.
You think Seattle's safeties are better than Giants' safeties?
I do, yeah. They don't call themselves a Legion of Boom for no reason.
They were the Legion of Boom, and now we have Landon Collins.
Dude, Earl Thomas and Cam out there, honestly, that's a scary bunch. That's not one. If I'm a player running into this, if I'm a running back and I'm going up against those two safeties, I'd rather get tackled by both the Giants safeties versus the Seattle Seahawks safeties. I'm just saying that. That's all I'm saying. They're more of an imposing force out there in Seattle, not just because of them alone, but the unit they play on. Does that make sense? I
guess. All right.
Thank you for calling in, bro.
No problem.
All right, and let's see. We'll get one last person on here. One last person. Press Tizzle. What's going on, man?
Not much, man. I just want to let you know I sponsored your channel, and I have a question. Who would you start in the fantasy football game? Would you start Eli against the Dallas Cowboys, or would you start Russell Wilson versus Green Bay?
Eli versus the Dallas Cowboys or Russell Wilson versus Green Bay?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and say Russell Wilson against Green Bay because not only is he my fantasy quarterback, I'm starting him this week against Green Bay, but I just think that I think that Russell Wilson is going to have a better time. He's very intelligent about how he uses his team. Not to say that Eli Manning isn't, but it's Green Bay. Green Bay's defense isn't all that great. I'd rather play against a Green Bay defense this week versus as opposed to like a Dallas Cowboys defense. They're both not that great, to be honest. You can honestly just pick and choose. It's my personal preference to start Russell Wilson this week. They're going to use the running game tremendously. Maybe get Eddie Lacy some more touches. Get him to get some kind of revenge against his former team. With that being said, I'm just going to say Russell Wilson's my guy.
All right, thanks.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you for calling in, and thank you for being a sponsor. As always, guys, we appreciate both me and Alex, a.k.a. Purple Swordfish. We appreciate any criticism, whether it's good, whether it's bad. We want to improve the show. We want to make this the best possible football podcast for you guys. So definitely tweet at us. Mention both of us in the tweet. We'll probably hit you with a retweet. Let's see. Tomorrow or maybe later on tonight, this entire audio broadcast, this entire audio podcast will be available via SoundCloud. It's going to be available via SoundCloud for all you people who are audio only. You just want to listen and do your workout or go to work, or maybe it's on a drive to work. You can do that because we got SoundCloud set up. And that's coming up really soon. That's probably going to be tonight. So tweet at us. Let us know what we can improve on. This is our first time. This is my first time ever doing a podcast. I probably killed it. I probably did really well or probably did really bad. I'm not sure. I know my co-host Alex, a.k.a. Purple Swordfish, killed it. I appreciate him. He was one of the first guys that came to my mind when I was looking for a co-host for his podcast. I'm like, you know what? Purple Swordfish got to be that guy. So we appreciate all the support. Definitely drop both of us a follow. I dropped my co-host's Twitter information down below. Be sure to follow him, as well as follow our new podcast on Twitter, NFL TL, NFL Talk Live. With that being said, Alex, it's been a pleasure doing this. We will see you next week for more. Anything you want to say?
Yeah, I actually have one real quick thing, Double R.
Go for it.
So we're doing these picks each week, right? And we're going to keep track of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
A wager for you, my friend.
A wager? Like a monetary value? I don't know if I could do that.
No, not monetary. No,
Okay.
this is for bragging rights. So at the end of the regular season, we tally up all the picks.
Okay.
And whoever loses has to wear full decked out gear, shirt, hat, of either the Bucs or the Ravens. So if I lose, I'm wearing Ravens gear, or any team you want to pick.
You are on. I'm down
Do
with
it.
it. I'm down with it. With that being said, this is going to be us wrapping up week 1 of this NFL podcast, NFL Talk Live podcast. Appreciate everyone for tuning in. We will catch you again next week.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of NFL Talk. Thanks Thanks so much for listening to this episode of NFL Talk Live with Reigning Ravens 1 and Alex, aka Purple Swordfish, streaming weekly on the YouTube channel Reigning Ravens 1 with all the audio archives on SoundCloud. Follow Reigning Ravens 1 on Twitter at Reigning Ravens 1 and follow Alex on Twitter at Swordfish Show. If you'd like to be part of the live call-in on the next episode, make sure to join the Discord server. This podcast is sponsored by Jerky XP. Save money on your order at the checkout by using the code RR1.
All right, bro.
We'll catch you next time on NFL Talk Live.